Hi, Nadia.
Hi.
It's kind of weird doing this right next to you.
I'm looking only in the camera because I can't, not used to being able to look at you in the face.
Also, I don't feel as compelled to be nice to you.
That's so mean.
I always joke
Yeah,
about,
actually, she's always fake nice on this podcast. By the way, everybody,
am I?
you just said it.
Okay, I always say that this being on this podcast with you on a weekly basis is nice because we're nicer to each other on the podcast than we are. Well, we're nice to each other on the podcast because we know it's being recorded.
Mhm.
But somehow you being back home makes me fall back into our old ways.
She's speaking from her experience, not my own.
um,
I've moved on for
okay. Well, welcome back to
that.
California.
Thank you.
You're here for the holidays.
Mhm.
And with the holidays and travel come two things that I want to talk about.
What?
One is the stress of being around family and family dynamics. Yikes. And two, which is a little bit less of a hot, um, scary topic, sleep,
Mhm.
the topic of sleep. I just came back from a week in Australia, in Melbourne, which is how we say it here in California. We call it Melbourne, Australia, but in Melbourne, Australia, they say Melbourne. So I just came back from a week in Melbourne, meeting with a great organization who educated a bunch of physical therapists, or how they call it there, physiotherapists, about sleep, the connection with pain, and healing, and all the other health issues that are associated with lack of sleep. Um, and they taught us how to fit people for custom beds, which I hope to bring into the clinic. Also, I just realized that I'm leaning over here towards the microphone, and it's not a good look. Okay. All right. So, um, one thing that we've talked about before is how you claim that you don't need that much sleep.
Let me clarify. I do need sleep. I just can function. I'm I am able to function off not that much sleep. Whereas I know people that cannot. I do need a lot of sleep. I just never really get the amount that I need. So,
I think like a lot of what they taught us about sleep was pretty intuitive. Well, one thing I'm thinking of right now that I didn't realize was the case is that there is a study, which I should be able to quote on show notes, but if I don't end up doing that, DM us and I'll let you know where the study is. That shows that as you get less sleep, you're less able to detect whether or not you've been getting enough sleep. Like you are like when you are chronically underslept,
mhm,
you start to accommodate and your brain starts to not realize how sleepless you are.
yeah. I think that though, because my lack of sleep isn't a consistent thing of like, I'm always going to bed too late, like, and I'm always changing places, like home, school, like traveling on weekends or visiting people on weekends. So my sleep schedule is always different. And because of that, I feel like there are some moments when I realize I have not been getting enough sleep. And most of those times happen when I'm home.
Mm. Yeah, and I also am not don't seem to be too sensitive to changes in time, like I don't, knock on wood, don't get that much jet lag. just came back from Australia, and I needed a little nap the day that we came back, but other than that, I was okay,
Mm,
and I assume that's because my body just hasn't gotten used to a regular schedule because it's always, like, shifting, so, like, I'm in general just used to shifting.
yeah. I also am okay with jet lag usually until I go home, which is very
You mean home, like, in California?
yes, and when I'm home, a 3-hour difference feels like a lot. When I go back to Boston, like, it's not anything crazy. If I go on our trips over the summer, like, to the Philippines, I mean, obviously, it takes a little bit of adjusting, but not that much. But when I go specifically when I return home
Maybe when you return home, your body goes into, like, a parasympathetic response, and you feel like you can finally relax, and then you just sleep, and
yeah,
everywhere else, you're, like, in, like, sympathetic response, fight or flight, and you're
yeah.
just, like, staying alert.
Yeah, I don't know, but being home makes me so tired.
I mean, I guess it could go either way, like, being home is, like, mentally taxing and
Yeah.
tiring or
It's
mentally
usually just, like,
relaxing.
I'm tired and I just can go to bed.
Maybe you feel taken care of here.
True.
As
He's, like, waiting for me to say yes.
Lucy was complaining about not having her dish fairy come at night in college.
Yeah,
But, like, yeah, when you're home, you have your dish fairy, you have your food fairy.
yeah, but I'm, like, so used to not having those things. So it's less of, like, a shock when I go back to Boston, more of like, "Oh, that's nice that, that happens at home."
Mhm. Um, yeah, so one thing that concerns me about everything that I learned about or reviewed or heard about sleep this past week, um, is about the connection of not having enough sleep and dementia.
Mhm,
Because Eric, your dad,
mhm.
I think like chronically doesn't get enough sleep because he works graveyard shift, 9:30 p.m. to 9 a.m.
Yeah, we talked about this before,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you don't know until it happens.
I know, but I'm worried about it. Like
Yeah,
what if he's like sacrificing, like he feels fine now and then we find out later and it's like, I don't know, really difficult on him and us.
yeah, well, in times where he's not working, he sleeps way more than I do,
It's true. I used to think that it was the reason why Eric can work graveyard shift is because he gets so much sleep the rest of the day. Because if you just told Eric to go to sleep anywhere, like you could be anywhere and say, Eric, go to sleep, he could, right? But actually, based on like, I don't know, other standardized little questionnaires and stuff, like that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing that you can just fall asleep anywhere.
Mhm.
That's actually like a sign that things are not super great.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I mean, it's a sign that you need more sleep, regular sleep.
Well, yeah.
Um, okay. Now family dynamics, the harder topic.
Mhm,
I think a lot of people feel nervous about coming home for the holidays.
mhm. I feel like I think we've talked about that, or I don't know if it was last. It definitely wasn't last year. Probably 2 years ago, when we talked about this before. But I feel like it's changed since then. Um, but I'm. I feel like it. I don't know. I guess it maybe depends on the family things that are going on at the time. But also now that I'm older, or I feel older, I can. Um, I don't know, I try not to take being home for granted, so I don't know where I'm going with this, but, like, kinda separate, I don't know, any feelings I'm having just so I can enjoy my time at home because I know it's limited.
Hmm.
Um, obviously it, like, changes every year because I go home, like, more times in the year or I visit home less now, and I don't know. A lot of things happen at home when I'm not here, so I feel like I just try to ignore it, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just, like, try to keep things simple. So I just, like I don't know.
What do you think is more important? Like, um, the loyalty to family and being back together with your pack of, you know, fam,
Mhm.
or protecting your personal peace? Like, if being at home with family doesn't feel good, it feels like stressful for you, is it better to just go home so that you continue to maintain a connection with these people who this family that you're born into? Or is it better to just protect yourself from all the feelings of angst that you might get when you're around family who might be asking you things that you don't feel comfortable with? Like, I'm sure everybody knows the questions that get asked, like, "Oh my gosh, what happened to your significant other?" Or, "Don't you think it's time to get married?" Or, "Isn't it time to have kids?" Or, "So what's up with your job?" And you're like, that could be a loaded question, you know? Or like, um I thought you said you were going to blah, blah, blah. You know, all those things that family can check in and ask you, and then all of a sudden feels like kind of like, I don't know, hard to answer and you don't want to deal with. Like, that can be something you want to protect yourself from. So, what's more important? Being back together with the pack or protecting your peace?
Um, well, for me, I feel like it obviously it depends on the person, but for me, protecting my peace means going back home because I feel like the way that I've grown up and just like the way that our family is always the most important thing. And it feels like if I was in a situation where I know things felt uncomfortable with family, that the best thing to do would just be to suck it up and go home and, like, hang out and not have to deal with, like, an extra thing. And if I were to leave or, like, not come home, it'd be like it would, 1, be a whole big thing, and 2, like, I wouldn't wanna come back home again and have to deal with that until it was fixed, but it can't be fixed unless like, all those things, and I just think but that's just how our family is and also how who I am. Like, like I said earlier, just try to ignore things and, like, keep things simple instead of having to talk about it. Not that, like, anything's happened that we had to talk about with family, but or maybe that hasn't happened in the past either, but protecting my peace for me might be just, like, sucking it up. And also, like, because I'm always gone for so long, it I, like, when I'm home, I realize how much I needed to be home. When I'm away, like, it's easy to be away, but when I come back, it's like, "Wow, I haven't been here in a while, I haven't seen family in a while." I just haven't, like, had time to myself. That's what home feels like for me, like, time for myself in a long time. So, like, I'll always need it more than I think.
That's really interesting that you think about being home as being time for yourself. I think that might change as you get older, especially if you
Probably.
end up getting your own apartment and living by yourself. That's truly time to yourself. And then once you're
Well,
with family, you have to like interact with so many people. But right now, you share a bathroom with 3 other women.
honestly, like, we don't interact all that much at home. We're all so busy. I honestly think, like, it's because of what we talked about for, like, having people to do like, having, like, my dad do the dishes or have you guys cook food. like, I have less responsibilities when I'm home, which obviously it is still going to change when I'm older, but because right now I have less responsibilities when I'm home and very separate from my school life or whatever, college life, I feel like I can relax because I don't have, like, other things to think about.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's pretty refreshing that you find home comforting and relaxing. There are so
Mhm.
many people out there that feel uncomfortable around their siblings or their parents,
Mhm.
um, not just because of comments, but because of things that have happened in the past. And it's just like constant reminders. And people often talk about once they get home with family, they kind of go back to their old habits and ways of doing things, you know? And maybe they don't like that version of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that was, like, something that happened or has happened a lot in the past of I go home and I feel like I return to my high school self, which I don't know if I've talked about that before, but, like, I don't know. Recently, or I guess maybe this time around, I've only been home 2 days. I just feel like, I don't know, try not to do that so I could just have a good time. But it is also just the fact and also my my room has been turned into a guest room so that none of my stuff is in there or, like, none of my stuff is out. So it doesn't, like, feel like there's nothing that would necessarily, like, revert me, like a memory that would revert me back to my 16-year-old self.
How do you feel about me turning your room into a hotel room looking
Feels super
thing?
awesome.
No, I'm serious.
Well, I feel like I don't know, I feel like I've talked about it a little bit, but I don't know. I like nothing it doesn't feel like anything that I could have said no to happening or could have stopped or would have stopped, but also it's kind of, um I don't have a word to describe it, but just like, I guess surprising to see it in the way that it is. Not that my room was, like, extremely decorated or whatever, it honestly just lived in a constant state of chaos. So I feel like being in my room and not seeing that is very interesting. But also, haven't had any of my clothes or any of my, like, actual things that I use in my room for the past 4 years, like, everything's in Boston, so it's not, like, that crazy.
Yeah, but now all your posters are gone. The decorations are off of your desk.
Yeah. I mean, like, eh,
I like it.
I know you like it because you guys use it, but I feel like, I don't know, I've kinda just accepted it. It's not gonna go like, I can't bring it back, but
Do you feel like it's still your room?
not really. But I also, like, didn't fully like, I always felt like I never, like, decorated it the way that I wanted to in high school, so it wasn't, like, something it wasn't, like, my prized possession, like, the way that I decorated my room, but it doesn't really feel like my room now, so but it's, like, it's whatever.
Do you think you're moving back to your room after you graduate?
Probably no. But, I mean, I say that now, but I probably will have no money, and it'll be my only
We shall see. I wonder
yeah,
if we'll still be doing the podcast then.
I
If
don't
our listeners will still be listening to see where you go next.
for 5 listeners.
We haven't had any guests this semester. We should probably bring some guests on,
Mhm.
but I don't know why we haven't been felt compelled to do that. But if you're listening,
'Cause
let
I
us
love
know.
talking about myself.
Yeah. Let us know, listeners. Are you ready for an expert opinion on sleep or any of our other topics?
Mhm.
Well, let us know. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.